Hello, and welcome to the 12 Days of TradWives. If you're new around here, my name is Kit, and TradWives is a series I do in December where I talk about the harmful beliefs and ideas promoted by certain influencers, content creators, and so on. Basically, my normal content, but more of it and with a festive flair. And on the 9th day of TradWives, we're discussing TradWives and the men that lead them. Before we get into it, I would like to note that I don't know any of the people mentioned in this video, and these are my thoughts and opinions on the content they put out for public consumption. That being said, thank you for joining me, and I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. I was getting ready for my annual TradWife video, and then I realized we very rarely hear about their husbands. But per the wives themselves, the men are the ones behind this whole thing. They're supposed to submit to the men are supposed to be the breadwinners, and yet, online, the women are the most visible, and as such, it's their content that's discussed the most. In this video, we're going to change that up. We'll still discuss a few posts that caught my eye, but for a change, we'll also see what their husbands are up to. Louise, It's Not Submission If You Agree, is still teaching women how to be feminine in a biblical way, and she recently posted this, which made me laugh. The number one reason feminism is anti-Christian is because all of its founders worshipped Satan. They all declared that Christianity was the primary culprit that held women back and mistreated them, including the ones taught in school as these lowly little meek women who just weren't allowed to speak, so they had to make a fuss, and it just so happened they won the hearts of people, etc., etc., etc. The truth is that they lied, damaged property, made a scene everywhere they went, threatened, took up causes of other marginalized groups, rewrote the Bible or completely rejected it, and preached evolving from gender altogether, engaging in free sex and love. They did not fight for your right to be a woman, a mother, a daughter, a sister, friend, or homemaker. They sought to destroy all of that because that's what already existed. We, the ones who understand how God made men and women, are the ones fighting for wives' and mothers' valuable positions which the very earliest feminists preached as slavery and abuse. It is a bold-faced lie to assert that it's because of feminists that we can choose to stay home. False. Women stayed home for thousands of years in every single corner of the earth before feminism. It's laughably false. This whole post is laughably false, but that's Louise's style. Christian feminists are going to be shocked to learn that they're actually worshiping Satan, though. And I do wonder why it's considered a bad thing to not be meek and quiet when fighting for your rights. Am I supposed to be appalled that women damaged property and ended up in jail? Am I supposed to be horrified to learn that women throughout history, even feminists, haven't all been prim, proper ladies? Am I supposed to denounce feminism because all feminists haven't been Christians? Why is marginalized in quotes? And who says feminists fought for women to choose to stay home? Louise is wrong when she says women have always stayed home, but I swear it's like she hears something and then puts it through a shredder so the result is some sort of jumbled nonsense. And why would feminists fight for women to be women, mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, or homemakers? Those were already socially accepted things for women to be. The issue was that was all it was socially accepted for women to be, and there have always been women who wanted more. And that is okay. Mary wanting to be a writer does not mean that Louise is wrong for wanting to marry and have kids. Anyway, if Louise's headship is online, we'll never know because this is basically an anonymous account. Moving on. Christiana, If You Don't Have Sex with Your Husband, You're Stealing From Him, is still going strong, and I noticed that she had a pinned post about the rights feminism took from women. Curious? Me too. Why is feminism regarded as the fight for women's rights? We all know the rights it allegedly gave to women. The ability to vote and to work outside of the home are some typically cited examples, although neither of those are actually true. Yet it's undeniable that feminism took rights from women as well, socially recognized rights rather than legislative ones, but they shaped reality nonetheless. Feminism robbed women of the right to be honored as the weaker vessel, the right to be respected for their sexual purity, the right to be accommodated in the unique hardships of womanhood, the right to be fiercely protected, sacrificially provided for, and their honor defended. The right to live in a world where motherhood was seen as a vocation at least as honorable as any other. The right to be just a wife and mother who runs a home and be regarded as a contributing member of society. The right to be valued for our feminine in all its fullness, rather than solely for our bodies and or how well we could compete with men. In other words, feminism did not give women rights so much as it redefined for us which rights were valuable and which were not. It flipped our values upside down and then demanded that we live according to the new system. And the irony of all that is this. The new rights it gave to women were more like men's rights. The rights it took away were women's rights. The patriarchy wasn't a prison, it was a refuge. That was an amazing rewrite of history and feminism. Excellent work of fiction. It's kind of funny how these folks pretend as though, since feminism exists, they're now forced to be boss babes, sleep around, and remain single. Even though the picture with this post is Christiana with her children, we know she's married, and she's talked about how she was raised in purity culture and wasn't damaged by it. And there was never a point in time when honoring women as the weaker vessel was the norm. Maybe if you were a wealthy woman, but poor women, and especially women of color, were not given that honor. Nor were women accommodated for the unique hardships of being a woman. Anyway, Christiana's husband isn't mentioned in her bio anymore, and it looks like he stopped posting some months ago. Issa, Teenagers Should Get Married, is also still going strong and has in fact expanded to Substack. I have to say, her Instagram is unintentionally hilarious. Men be like, "Where's the ketchup?" Men also be like, "Do you see that buck across the canyon?" This is funny because it's true, and insightful because God created male and female brains differently. Men's brains are indeed wired more for seeing a buck across a canyon than the ketchup in the fridge, and that's a-okay. We need men to be more attuned to that sort of thing, and I love them for it. This morning, a hawk flew down low over our chickens while they were eating breakfast. My 11-year-old excitedly told me about it when I came outside, and I observed that half the flock was hiding under my car for safety. I looked out at the rest of the chickens and asked, "What, are they the stupid ones who don't care about danger?" "Well, they've got the roosters with them," my son corrected. After having a good laugh, and not for the first time, about my son's superior observation skills, it occurred to me how metaphorical the situation was. Nearly a dozen hens were crouched under an SUV, a big hunk of steel and plastic, out of fear. Meanwhile, their peers were happily enjoying the rest of their breakfast under the protection of the roosters. Such a fitting picture of what safety looks like when you rely on the modern machine versus the biological instinct to trust and be protected and provided for by a male. She did compare women to chickens, but we're not done. You can fantasize about how male insecurity created gender roles all you want. Women were simply not the ones doing the more backbreaking, oppressively humiliating work to build pre-industrial cities, infrastructure, and civilization. Nor were women the ones heading out to battle or to fight in hand-to-hand combat with archaic weaponry against bloodthirsty invading armies where they could end up as a swift victim of instant corporal punishment should they chicken out and decide to run back to draw water and grind mill with the women. Wow. So women have never done back-breaking, oppressively humiliating work? Women just drew water and ground mill while men were out fighting in wars? I hate to be the one to break Issa's fantasy, but no, women were not luxuriating at home while the men were out building society and fighting for their survival. Women hunted and gathered. Women fought. Women worked, and that includes back-breaking, oppressively humiliating jobs. I'm not sure why women like Issa feel the need to put down women. There's nothing to gain by denying history. It doesn't improve her life to act as though women always just sat around eating candy while men broke their backs to make things nice for them. Speaking of which, she pinned this gem to her profile. Make women and children a protected class again. Chivalry, the best way to preserve the dignity and honor of women. Patriarchy, the radical notion that men should take responsibility for providing for and protecting their community, wives, and progeny. The words don't mean what she thinks they do, but that won't stop Issa. Chivalry wasn't for women. It was a code of conduct for knights. Patriarchy isn't about men protecting and providing. It's a whole system of relationships, beliefs, and values in political, social, and economic systems. And when were women a protected class? Or is she thinking about laws that would punish a man for harming another man's wife or daughter? Does she not know that that was because the woman was considered that man's property? Or does she think that's okay? Since she really likes patriarchy, I'm assuming the latter, but what a strange thing to post. And in another unsurprising twist, Issa's husband also isn't online. And this is when our luck runs out. Solely, oh boy, there is so much. I will never stop believing in the sanctity of marriage. I will never stop believing in the beauty of motherhood. I will never stop believing that children are a blessing. I will never stop believing in the value of homemaking. And she doesn't have to stop believing any of that, and no one is asking her to. But then she posts the following: we don't need longer maternity leave for mothers. We need to stop normalizing leaving your children to go and work. I can't help but think that longer maternity leave would incentivize more women to have children and high-powered careers at the same time. It would reinforce the false belief that women can and should do both. There are women that would give anything to be home but simply can't afford it. However, many modern women live for their careers and are willing to sacrifice the needs of their babies for their jobs. It's how they've been conditioned. Children, young children especially, have a physiological need for their mothers. For extended mat leave to truly make sense, it would need to extend long enough to a point where the child could take care of themselves for some time, or when the child starts school. Shorter mat leave can incentivize women who long to be with their babies to take the necessary steps to allow them to stay home with them. That's when people start getting upset because Soli is talking about something she neither needs nor wants that is already incredibly rare in the States. However, a lot of people do need to work whether or not Soli believes they do, and shorter mat leave wouldn't incentivize them to find ways to make do without their job. What fantasy does she live in? And then she wants to punish women who do have careers they enjoy because she doesn't believe women can work and raise children at the same time? What business is it of Soli's? And that is when people tell her she's crazy and she's too young to know anything and so on, and she takes it very personally, not seeming to realize that she's reacting to the commenters the way they are reacting to her. The hubris is astounding. And I would also like to note that within 3 days of giving birth to her third child, Soli was posting about how she was going live to discuss her birth story, but only for paying members of Homemakers Hub. Like Classically Abby, Soli is self-employed, and they're both giving themselves shorter mat leaves than my company would if I were to need it. Oh, but right. That option just encourages me to return to work, never mind the fact that I need money to keep myself and my imaginary child sheltered, fed, and clothed. But Soli is one of the TradWives who does have a husband active on social media, and, well, let's quietly die of secondhand embarrassment together.
Listen up, you dinkwads. Now, before you get offended, dinkwad means dual income, no kids, with a dog. Dinkwad. That's what these people call themselves. Stop pretending that your life is great just because you have a stupid dog. Ain't nobody care about your stupid dog. All you want to do is consume. You're like, oh, we're dinkwads. We get to go out and we get to go travel and spend some money on stuff. Who cares? Who cares? My wife has babies. She beats you. All right?
I get the impression that he does care since he took the time to rant about it, but maybe this was just an off day and another post will be better.
Oh, I love Thanksgiving. This turkey is really good, right? Yeah, but if it was up to Biden, we wouldn't even have any food to buy. Look, I'm just saying, the economy is like just tanked, you know? Like, those dang Democrats are just going nuts. Yeah, I mean, I agree, but like people are just retarded nowadays. This is my wife. She used to spend about 2 to 3 hours a day on Instagram, but she was creating content. She was growing a community. She was able to grow her page to about 8,000 followers. And we were both very happy because we were putting the values out there that we truly believe in. However, my question to her was,
can we make money through this?
And of course we can. We've been able to make $20,000 in the past 8 months alone, just off of online courses. We've made a lot more with coaching, but just online courses, semi-passive, just continue to make content and just make money. If you want to learn how to do that, I actually made a whole entire tutorial on exactly how to do that step by step, how we did that at least, so that maybe you can do that yourself too. If you want to get it, comment 30K tutorial down below and I'll send it right to your DMs.
Okay, well, I tried. Despite Andre having the responsibility, per their beliefs, to be the provider, it's clearly Soli carrying their business. Though she does want to make it clear that she doesn't submit because it makes her happy. Though, of course it makes her happy, but she does it because she wants to obey God. Bernadine is on her winter break, and her content has mostly become about her Simply Smitten course, but her husband is on socials and, well, he is now a relationship coach, and It's not good. The elites don't want you to know this, but you can have as many kids as you want and teach them to love everything your enemies hate. I do it all the time. I have like 5. Your family shouldn't be consuming anything without your approval. Books, movies, podcasts, video games, etc. Despite the desperate attempts of closeted feminists to tell you otherwise, patriarchy is not an unfortunate backlash or a pendulum swing reaction to feminism. Patriarchy is the past, present, and future of both civilization and Christianity. It is the absolute norm in the biblical family and in all decent, successful, and healthy societies. Here are the facts. Patriarchy was the norm for all of time throughout all of human history. No legitimate civilization has existed without it. Just over 100 years ago, feminism was injected into civilization like a virus by subversive actors. Weak women were manipulated by their lies, and weak men stood by and allowed it. The foundations of patriarchy were very strong and held the weight of the slow decay for nearly a century. Eventually, the foundations themselves began to become infected, leading to the state of degeneracy we see today. In response, MGTOW Red Pill began to revolt, many refusing to get married and choosing a life of uncommitted promiscuity and self-pleasure rather than to face the risks of leadership and the weight of authority. This is the actual pendulum swing and backlash. But our civilization was built by men who had more to live for than themselves. Order, provision, and security were necessary for their wives and children to survive. So they built it and stood firm against anything that would threaten its future. A man having authority in his own home and living as a picture of the lordship of Christ, and therefore God the Father, toward his family is what Satan fears the most. Why? Because this is the basis of Christian civilization. Patriarchy literally means father rule. Our enemy fears men with the power to shut him down. When fathers rule their families, Satan can't. More and more, people are becoming tired of the subversive lies and the pendulum swings. Now is the time to swing back to the civilizational norm of patriarchy and cut the cord. For some reason, I thought Lawson wasn't that bad, but wow, he's actually a bit scary, and yet another who likes to rewrite history. Of course, he likely believes that human history began with the Bible, but just because you say you speak truth doesn't mean you actually do. It's like how Fox News claimed to be fair and balanced. It seems to me that promoting traditional values online is a solo affair, not a couple's activity. And I do kind of wonder why, given how important marriage and children are to trad folks. Perhaps it's because they're trying to sell a romantic dream and the reality would tarnish the shine? I've mentioned before that it all sounds very pretty. You submit to him and he loves and protects you, but seeing Andre and Lawson, well. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.